Hi, how are you? How was your week? It was a little warm and a little humid, but we got through. We got to walk, and we had a celebration yesterday of being able to live in this beautiful place. So I was trying to figure out what I was going to talk about, and I remembered what we talked about last Sunday in church, and the children's sermon and the Bible verses that were read. I wasn't really here for that part, but I was here for the children's sermon, and it hit home with me. And I'm just going to read you from Luke, chapter 8, verses 41 through 56. A man named Jairus came to Jesus. He was a ruler of the synagogue, and he bowed down at Jesus' feet and begged him to come to his house. Jairus had one daughter, and she was 12 years old, and she was dying. While he was on his way to Jairus' house, the people were crowding around him, and a woman was there who had been bleeding for 12 years. No doctor was able to heal her, so she came up behind Jesus and touched the edge of his coat, and the bleeding stopped. And Jesus said, "Who touched me?" And all the people said that they hadn't done it. And Peter said, "There's so many people around you, they're pushing against you." But he said, "No, someone touched me. I felt power go out of me." And when the woman saw she could not hide, she came forward. She was shaken and she bowed down. She told him why. And then she said, when it happened, she was healed. And Jesus said to her, "You are healed because you believed. Go in peace." While Jesus was still speaking, someone came to the house of the synagogue ruler, that was Jairus, and said to him, "Your daughter has died. Don't bother the teacher now." When Jesus heard this, he said to Jairus, "Don't be afraid, just believe, and your daughter will be well." Jesus went to the house with Peter, John, James, and the girl's father and mother inside. Everybody was crying, but Jesus said, "She's not dead, she's only sleeping." And the people laughed because they knew the girl was dead, but Jesus took her by the hand and called to her, "My child, stand up." Her spirit came back into her, and she stood up immediately. And Jesus said, "Give her something to eat." And the girl's parents were amazed. There's a lot of stories like that. But here's my story. It's not my story. Here's Colleen's story. So Colleen was 7 years old. When she was 7, she got sick with pneumonia. And we took her to the hospital, and they couldn't help her because this pneumonia was, bacterial or viral, where you can't take medicine for it. And she was getting worse and worse. And she had to be not respirated, but on a BiPAP machine, which forces air into her. Very close to being respirated. So she's in the hospital. And Kenny came, and I had to go home. We were switching off who would stay with Kevin. And I got in the car. When I got in the car, started yelling at God a lot, screaming at him. "You can't take her. She's a little girl. You're going to scare her friends. She's got things to do here." So I did that the whole way home. And then Kenny called me and he said, "It's a miracle." I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "She's better." I said, "I just left." He said, "Well, when you left, she got better." I said, "When I left, I prayed." He said, "It helped. It worked." And she got better. She did not need oxygen when she came home. She never had a problem with it again. That was her story. So one day, a couple years later, maybe 2 or 3 years later, we're sitting in the car, and that particular Bible verse about Jairus' daughter came on the radio. And we're reading it. And we listened to it, and then Colleen said, "That's me." And I said, "Yeah, that's you." She said, "That's my story." I said, "Yes, it is. You were going to die, and you came back." So she's a miracle. So I had in my head that she was a miracle. And God wouldn't take her when she was a young woman, that he would let her have her child and her family and live a long time. And that did not happen. So the reason I'm saying all this is because this happens. My uncle, who is not 32, but in his 70s, about 25 years ago, got pancreatic cancer and had it for 25 years. I don't know if you know about pancreatic cancer, but it's a tough thing to have. And you don't really survive with it. But my uncle found a doctor, and he did some experimental procedures, and my uncle lived another 25 years with that. One day he was on an airplane, and there was a surgeon sitting with him, and he was telling the surgeon his story, and the surgeon said, "You are a living, walking miracle." And he is. My Uncle Dick is a living, walking miracle. And he spent his life really well with music, as a teacher, and especially with his family. And then 3 weeks ago, he had a heart attack, and then another one, and he passed away. Again, a miracle, but he still died at a relatively young age. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today. Why? Why go through all of this to have a miracle and then have them die at a young age when they're still connected with their families, when they're still happy, when they're still raising their child, when they're still helping with their grandchildren and doing what they want to do, what they love doing, to help people, still helping people. Why? So I kind of looked stuff up. And there's all kinds of reasons for it. We don't know what will happen to them. Maybe something evil will happen to them, and they should be with God first. I really hope that's not true. I guess what I think is, it doesn't matter why. I want it to matter, but I also don't want it to be because they were done or because God knows bad's going to happen and he doesn't want them here. I don't even know if God knows why. But I have to survive. I have to be there for Colleen, because she needs somebody down here with her. I have to be there for Kenny and my kids and my granddaughters. My Aunt Ann has to be there for her children and her grandchildren. We can't just say, okay, he's in heaven, I'm going up there. We have to be here. So we can't let the why stop us. So here's what I'm thinking. I don't know why they had to die at a young age. I don't know why anybody has to die at a young age. Shantae, Alex, my Uncle Dick, my cousin Margot, Kenny's cousin Andrea. I don't know. What I do know, to Sean, who died at a young age, this is what I do know. I do know that even though I was using a lot of swear words, and even though I was really angry and really scared, that God still stayed there with us. And the other thing I know is that Colleen is not alone, that she is up there with Jesus and God and the people that have been there ahead of her, like Elizabeth and her grandparents and my uncles and to Sean and Uncle Dick. I know that God doesn't necessarily control every single thing. He can. I don't think he always does. I think he allows life to happen as it is. I think what he does is helps the rest of us through it. by sending my best friend, Robin, Joanne, Kathy, my brothers, my mom and my dad, Phyllis. I know that God helped us to be able to go up to Massachusetts to celebrate my uncle's life. I know that somebody is sending me signs about how to deal with these kids, especially when they have some issues. And I know that he's sending us the time to be able to spend with each other, so that Kevin calls me almost every day. So I get to see Kennedy Ann and Scarlett and Lisa, Kevin and Em and Craig. I know that God helps me, that when I'm walking and I'm crying, that I calm down and be able to do what I need to do. I don't know why. I don't know why these miracles happen and then those people have to die anyway. But it's not like they died and they're gone. They died and they're with God. They're with Jesus. And they're still part of this Holy Spirit that we have. They're still part of life. They have a different role to play. But they also have part of the same role by watching out for their families. So when you lose someone and you don't understand why, call your friends. Call me. Look it up and see. I don't think God knows why either, but he's there to help us and always will be. So this week, when something bad happens, just look up at God and say, listen, can you help me through this? And all of a sudden, you'll realize you were helped through it. So you have a good week. I love you. I miss you a lot. But we'll be together soon. Take care.